Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project. Are you ready?
Okay, this is Eric McKenna, and welcome to the Eric McKenna Project. Thank you for joining us, and I'm delighted to have a very special guest in today, at least from my standpoint here.
Should I slide a 10 across the table now?
I was hoping for a 20, man. We had, coincidentally, Jeff, we had a guitar tech in a couple days ago. I do a lot of stuff in music, and a guy out of Chicago, and him and his buddy, who are probably the top two guitar techs in the country, they brought their swear jars with them. We're not going to need that today. They also had booze, but it's a little early in the day for that as well. But Jeff Verszyla, how are you, sir?
I'm very good, very good. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I was telling Jeff offline, it's a humbling thing, but since your separation from KDKA for 23 years as the chief meteorologist there.
Correct. 18 was for chief meteorologist.
Okay.
My first 5 years at KDKA, I did weekends and mornings, bounced back and forth. And then I took over the role of chief meteorologist after 5 years.
Okay. The WhiteBoard Weather you're basing, I think, the entire platform, what you're doing around that was WhiteBoard Weather. And then there's obviously, is it Pittsburgh Weather Now?
That's the website, PittsburghWeatherNow.com.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because that's where I initially connected. It was web-based, and this is the alternative media. And I don't know if you've heard it, but I've heard people predict that this is the replacement ultimately for, quote, traditional television. And you're certainly adopting that vigorously in what you're doing here, and I'm fascinated by that.
Well, I appreciate it, and I wish I could take credit for being some sort of pioneer or some sort of groundbreaker, but it was just the way things evolved were more out of necessity and also to a large degree people's desire. What I mean by that is when I was let go from KDK it was a Friday, December 14th. That's a day that always will stick in your mind when something like that happens.
Indelible.
Over the course of the weekend, you're processing a lot of things, because when you've worked someplace that long, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, I had a lot of people reach out to me with similar situations, you go through a range of emotions. And over the course of the weekend, I was processing, but in the process of processing, a lot of people reached out to me through social media, through Twitter, through Facebook, even through Instagram, just throwing their support behind me. They were not happy with the way things went down, and ultimately they wanted my information. They trusted me after that length of time. You build a relationship with viewers over the course of 2+ decades. And people just said, we want your weather. We want what you do. We're really upset with your former employer. So it was just out of necessity in that point that I said, geez, how can I do this for people? And also, it was for my mental health to stay in the routine. I mean, for every day for almost a quarter decade, I'd been doing a weather forecast Monday through Friday. So to get back in a routine quickly helped me through the process. And it also was able to reach the people with the information that they wanted from me. So that Monday, 2.5 days after I was let go, I'm like, well, the way I can reach people is through Facebook Live and Twitter, through pictures, and you can even put videos on there. Right. But not just the information, because not so often do people want to just watch a talking head the whole time. They want something to break it up. You can only be pretty for so long on camera before you need a break.
I'm still working on that.
So I said, well, how can I deliver the graphics? I always had computer-generated graphics, so I used alliteration, WhiteBoard Weather, obviously W&W. I went and bought a whiteboard, and I bought a pack of 10 markers. And I said, I'm just going to simplify it, and I'll just write the forecast out. Each day we'll get a different color. Right. And I'll just break it down that way. And, here we sit, almost 6 months later, and it has really taken on a lot of traction. I mean, people like, and I say the tagline, one of the taglines for WhiteBoard Weather is simply accurate. Because I think there's a lot of sophistication in simplicity. As much as we move forward technologically, there's still a draw to simplify things.
No question.
People just want the straightforward answer. Having worked as long as I did in broadcasting, I know the way things happen, and I know what people like and what they don't like. And I wasn't always able to go the route that personally that I wanted to do.
Right.
Sometimes you're asked to do things that maybe go against something that you personally would rather do. So I'm a no hype guy. I'm somebody that for all those years, I just would like to deliver the information. I don't tell people if they should act or overreact to any weather situation. I let people decide. I give people the benefit of the doubt of being smart enough to know what they need to be concerned about and what not to be concerned about. So I just present the weather information straightforward, simply accurate, and I always have. I'm not a hype guy. I'm sort of the anti-hype guy, and I'm sort of the alternative to the broadcast medium. And by that, also what I was doing, I did at 3 o'clock every day. And quite honestly, I did that before any afternoon newscast came on. I can give the information so people they can use their time wisely.
Sure.
They don't have to sit and wait for the information that they want at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever. They can get it at 3 o'clock when I do it live.
Right.
Or,
right.
And I think this is what you were touching on, people are so busy nowadays. They're out moving and going, and they don't have time to sit and wait. So even if people don't join me on my Facebook feed live at 3 o'clock, which goes about 15 minutes, they can go back at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7:30, whenever they have time, if they're sitting at a field with their kids during baseball or a soccer game, or even just maybe sitting and waiting at a restaurant for dinner, 20 minutes, airport, and they can just pull it up on their device and they can go to the face and they can watch it anytime they want. It's evergreen. It's there forever. But obviously the information is good for 24 hours.
Sure.
But it's the library continues to grow. So that way of delivering it seems to really fit the lifestyle that people have grown into, not only with their devices, but with their schedules and how they run their day.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too, 100%. And I'd also like to add that I think because I'm a marketer by trade, this is what I do, the personal connection now through your Facebook Live videos is way better than what you were permitted naturally under a corporate environment or the time allotted. It just, you're in more control, and I see it. And it's funny because to me, you look happier. Not that you weren't happy in K2K, but I'm saying there's and again, I think I'm a pretty good judge of this. You look organically, and I love that word because that's what we're doing here, organically happy and in control of the circumstances, and you're delivering things the way you want to. And it's a personal connection. You're on this Facebook Live, you are acknowledging people that are coming on. And a lot of people don't do that. I have that radio show. We do that. We broadcast a show live on Facebook. It's tremendous. And we try to acknowledge questions and so forth. And I think that's where the tie-in is. And that's so different than what you did prior with your station.
Correct. And through TV, anyone that watched me on TV for all those years, just through watching, people develop a connection with you because you're the person that gives the information. But this takes this social media that I've been using, especially Facebook, it does go to a whole new level. It not only does it create a connection, it creates a relationship. And I think there's an absolute difference between the two, because now I do have a relationship with all these people that tune in regularly and post comments. I'll often read through a lot of the comments and respond to them personally when I do have the time. So yeah, I think it does take it to a whole new level of a relationship with these people that I'm trying to build with more people as time goes on. And I think I've done a good job. I mean, every day I know I see a lot of the same people on there, and I see new people on there. So I know that we're growing in a positive direction. So I think as time goes on, that's going to continue because I do believe I'm doing a good thing, delivering in a good way, and it is more comfortable for me when you don't have somebody dictating that you need to do this X, Y, Z. It's, I'm my own boss there. I say what I want to say. I do what I want to do. There's no constraints on me. There's no, handcuffs. I can pretty much go in whatever direction I want to.
It's liberating.
Absolutely. It is absolutely liberating. And a lot of people, it's funny because sometimes I'll do different segments and It's all done in my house usually, whether it be in the kitchen or in the office.
That's great, though.
Or in my bar in the basement. And I've had many people say, it's just great. I mean, I don't have to see you in a suit and tie in front of a green screen to get the weather. It's better you're in a ball cap and a T-shirt drinking a beer, and we're talking about weather. And
I can relate to that. That's what we do here.
It's good stuff, man. It's, you know, you don't need that technical layer of corporate professionalism. I'm not saying I don't do it professionally.
Understood.
But it's casual. It's laid back,
casual.
And the information's still good.
And don't you think that is more in tune with society today?
Absolutely.
We have a mutual friend, and we used to work together, and we would laugh because when we were working in the late '90s for this corporate company, things were changing in society. People were getting more casual. There was more casual days in corporate America. I don't know how that happened at the radio station or the television station, but generally it's just a more casual society. I think there's good and bad to that sometimes. I mean, you go out to a restaurant and it seems like the dress codes are gone, and so you know all that. But ultimately, I think people are more casual, and I think we're more comfortable in a casual environment.
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And, you know, all those years I worked in TV, most people would just see me, unless, you know, my family, my friends, my neighbors, the places or where I live and frequent.
Right.
Outside of those people, if I were to encounter somebody, say at a hockey game or a baseball game, and they would see me in like a T-shirt or a polo shirt and a hat, and, oh, you have the day off. You're not in a suit today. And I would always say, the person you see on TV is not the person I am in reality. And that's not to say I was somebody different.
Right.
But I'm not a suit and tie guy.
Right.
Never have been. I've always been a ball cap T-shirt kind of guy. So that is my element. I am doing what I love to do and what I was trained to do in an environment that I've been made for since I was born. You know, I'm a T-shirt, ball cap, laid back kind of dude.
Explain a little bit about what or how you, or the tools that you use to create your forecast. Because one of the things I said was I was guessing the station must have a ton of money, obviously, and the information. But obviously, this information that you decipher as a meteorologist is available to you from third parties. Is that correct? I
use the same. I go to the same places to get the information.
Wow.
It's nothing. Okay. I mean, the interweb has everything you ever need if you know what you're looking for and know where to go, and obviously know how to interpret the information. But you know, working at a TV station, they didn't out graphically. Yes, the graphics, the radars, all that stuff, they had that, which I don't have access to that level of radar and the graphics, but to actually put together a forecast from soup to nuts, the actual nuts and bolts of it, yes, I could do it on my phone.
Wow.
I can pull up where I need to go and look at the information that I like to look at, and interpret the way that I use my education for. But yeah, I can do that anywhere. I don't need a TV station to support me for that. It's a laptop, a phone. I can do it all there.
Yeah, you seem very comfortable too with self-promotion, and that's a misunderstood word, I think, because there's a lot of connotations there. But in what you're doing and what we're doing, those who are using alternative media to grow an enterprise, you have to self-promote.
Absolutely.
And you seem very comfortable doing it. Now, I guess behind the camera all those years, the dynamic way you must be obviously translates a lot of it, but there's a genuineness to what you're doing. I can feel it when I watch you. And talk a little bit about that, because obviously now all promotion falls on your shoulders.
Yes. You know, and I had the benefit of building notoriety in the community for 23 years. And the name Verszyla is a hard one to forget once you see it one time. Right. So I gotta thank my family, my family lineage. You're only seeing one Verszyla around here. If there's anyone that has the same spelling as mine, they're definitely related to me. But you know, I had that benefit. But at this point, you know, I started with a higher floor than a lot of people do. Sure. Because of what I did for so long. So it is, in that respect, it's probably easier for me to push out that promotion. But the key at this point is to build it and grow it. And you know, I've benefited from people reaching out to me, like yourself, and offering me this platform to get the word out. And also, through what I did, I made relationships with other folks in like at the city paper. They did a story on me after the fact. The Post-Gazette did a story on me. So I try to use them to my advantage to get my story out and what I'm trying to do. And I should mention this announcement will be coming out shortly. So you have a breaking news open.
I got
here?
a scoop.
No,
I don't have a breaking news like a little monologue or a little music action.
The Pittsburgh Magazine, they always do their best of the Burgh, and I was fortunate enough to be nominated for Best Meteorologist along with several other people who actually have the support of a TV station behind them. I was the only non-TV station person nominated.
Right.
I just found out that I did win.
You won. Well,
Best
congratulations.
Meteorologist
That's a big
in the
deal.
Burgh for Pittsburgh Magazine.
Yeah,
so
that's amazing. You beat out the stations.
And that's
in
not
5 months.
That's not me altogether. It is the support of the people that have been with me for the last 5.5 months. So I tip my cap to all the people that have supported me. But yeah, that's a nice honor to get.
No question.
And it's it's validation from the people that support me, that they're behind me.
Yeah, and I go back to that issue where you're able to do what you love, but with more control, and it's I can relate to that. It's powerful, and to those who haven't had the opportunity, unfortunately, to do that yet in their life, maybe it's hard to explain. But the liberation is amazing. Being in complete control of your presence, your image, how you communicate with people, that's powerful stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And that's ultimately what everyone wants.
I think so.
You want to have as much control over your life as possible. And, this opportunity, and I'll use that word, that was thrust upon me whenever they let me go, I've embraced it with open arms. Now, you can go in many directions when something like that happens to you. You can fold your tents. And I chose not to. Because that's just not who I am, but it also fit my lifestyle at this point. So for so many years, I worked that evening shift where I would go into work at 1:30 and wouldn't get home till midnight. For many years, I was single, and it was great. It was fine.
Sure.
I was living a different lifestyle. Then I got married, and it became a little bit more difficult. And then we started having kids, and that made it even more difficult. And as my kids got older and started to get active in more things, sports, church activities, school activities, whatever the case may be, my schedule didn't allow me to be there for a lot of that happened during the week, which really started to bother me because you have a certain window in your life to make your connection with your kids as strong as possible. So this opportunity now has given me more freedom. We talked about being able to kind of map out your own route. It's given me more freedom to be the father that I wanted to be to my kids in terms of being available to them for special events and things that are important to them. So I consider that to be a blessing. I really do.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, that is the number one thing. It's not the unlimited income potential. It's not even the ego, which all of us have to fight that at times. It really is, for those of us who have families, it's how to map out your life where you can be the parent or the spouse that you really want to be, and no one else is putting a limit on that.
Correct. And for so many years, having done what I do, I mean, I had people say, well, how do you do that? You go in the afternoon, you get home so late. Well, you do what you need to do because that's the job that I had to do, and you did it, but that doesn't mean I liked it.
No, that's an honest statement. That's an honest statement.
That doesn't mean I liked it, but now, I've been given a new lease and to kind of map out a new route and journey, and I'm enjoying it and embracing it wholeheartedly.
Going back a bit, what determines or what happened in your life? Do you have a moment where you realized, hey, I want to go into weather? Were you always in science? Were you science oriented?
No, not at all. It's a long story. How much time do we have?
We have time, pal. That's what we do here, long form conversations.
No, I graduated from college. I went to Allegheny College in Meadville.
Right.
And I graduated with a degree in broadcast communications and English. And immediately after college, I got my first job in radio. And I did some board op, which is just running the board overnight. And I also did some producing for a morning show at the time. It was called Variety 96, which is out in Wilkinsburg, Ardmore Boulevard in the Channel 4 building. For the morning show, it was Barry Beck and Lee Phillips were their name. And I produced their morning show. And I did that for a couple years, and then you kind of you get to know the ins and the outs of the business very well, and you want to open more doors for yourself. So then I started marketing myself as a DJ, and I got hired for a job at a station called KVLY.
Okay.
It was a station in deep South Texas. And when I mean deep South Texas, if you pull a map out and you look at the very southern tip of Texas.
By El Paso, somewhere around there?
No, further south.
Can't get much more south than El Paso.
No, you can. You can't. Trust me, brother. If you look at the very southern tip there, and you look closely at the town names, there's a town called McAllen, McAllen. Okay. It's about 6 miles from the border.
Okay.
And I moved there. That's where the radio station was. So I uprooted my life and moved cross country by myself to take a station as the morning, or a position as the morning show DJ.
Format?
It was a hot AC, adult contemporary. My name in that part of the country, Verszyla, was much too ethnic. They don't see that many consonants in that manner down there.
No, they do not.
Especially those, the S, the Z, the Y. So I became Jeff Martin down there. And I was Martin in the morning. So I was presented that opportunity. Now, during that time, I did make connections with other people at other radio stations and TV stations, and an opportunity became available. Now, when I was in college, I did some stuff with TV, but not a lot of it was on camera. A lot of my training was behind the scenes. I was a really big production guy, but I knew a lot about it, enough about it. But an opportunity became available at the ABC station. The guy that did weather in the morning and the lady that did weather on the weekends were getting married.
Okay.
And they were going on their honeymoon. So they were going to be down a weather forecaster for a week. So I came into this information, and I contacted the TV station and threw my hat into the ring because it was extra money. And when you're 24 years old, you're looking for every extra dollar you can earn.
Beer money.
Especially when you're not... Well, no, I didn't even have much of that. Back then, at a radio station, I think I was making $17,000 a year, which is below poverty level.
Right. Maybe not down there, though.
No, not down. You're correct. You are correct. I did have a roof over my head in the car, but not much else, trust me. But anyway, so I went in and I talked to them. They gave me an audition. Again, I'd never really done much on camera, especially in front of a chroma key wall. And they said, you got enough for us to work with, we'll train you. So they offered me the job for the week, temporarily, freelance. So I took it, and I filled in for a week, and it was just one of those things that just instantaneously felt right. And not so much the weather, but just the on-air broadcasting. There's nerves the first day, obviously, because you're unsure of what you're doing. But by the second day, I was like, man, people get paid good money for this. This is easy. Or at least for me, it seemed that way. So I finished out the week, and they were very happy with what I did, but obviously they didn't have any positions available.
Right.
To try and make the long story short, I lost my job at the radio station down there, so I was technically unemployed at this time. So
Martin in the morning wasn't happening.
Martin in the morning was done. But I was still Jeff Martin down there.
Okay.
Which became my TV name as well.
Okay.
Eventually. But I was looking for full-time work because I'm, again, a person who has a lot of integrity and pride, and I wasn't coming home a defeated man. So I was going to figure it out down there. So I went to the school district, and I applied to become a teacher because education is really big down there. Not a lot of people get college educated. So I was offered a job at 2 schools to be an English teacher and a football coach. And unfortunately, the schools were fighting over my services, or fortunately.
Fortunately, yeah. That's fortunate.
So they needed to figure out which school offered me the job first. So we had to wait for a school board meeting. In the interim, the TV station had called me, and I thought they wanted me to do more freelance work, which I did do on occasion, but they called me into the station on a Friday. Let me backtrack. I'm sorry. So the school board meeting occurred on a Thursday. The school called me on Friday morning, and they said, this school offered you the job first, so if you're going to accept one, you have to accept this school. It wasn't the one I wanted to go to, but I was going to take it anyway. So I said, listen, because I was hesitant, it wasn't the school I wanted. I said, let me take the weekend to think about it. I'll get back to you on Monday. Literally an hour and a half, 2 hours later, the TV station called me. And they said, can you come to the station? I'm figuring, okay, they want me to do some more freelance stuff.
Right.
So I go into the station, I meet with the news director, and he sits me down in his office, and he says, we've liked what you've done for us with the weather and some of the freelance stuff, like a live shot here and there that you've done for us. We would like to offer you a full-time position. We don't have a role for you. We'll figure it out as we go. We may have you anchor, sports, weather, general assignment reporting, but we just like what you've done for us. So they offered me a full-time job, and I explained to him that I was offered a job at the school district, and I gave him the same thing. I said, I need the weekend to think about it. Well, come Monday, you know what avenue I went.
Naturally.
Went to the TV station.
Right. Right.
But it's funny the way things work out, because had they not called that day and maybe called a week later, I would have probably already accepted. I would
in a row,
I would have been a teacher and a football coach instead of a meteorologist.
Right.
To get back to your original question, I told you it was a long story. So I started at the TV station. I did a little bit of everything. Eventually,
give us an example when you say that, because I think it's a good lesson for those that want to start in the business.
I was a Swiss Army knife of the station. Wherever they needed somebody, I went to work every day at the TV station not knowing what my role was that day.
Okay.
I could be out covering a car accident or a fire, or they could say, go cover a high school football game for sports, or they could say, you know what, we need you to fill in on the noon show anchoring, or so-and-so is sick, we need you to fill in on the weather this weekend.
Right,
so
right,
literally,
right.
from one day to the next, I was doing various jobs. Or it could just be a live shot from a festival. Just, hey, the 4th of July festival's this weekend. So eventually, I think they knew this was coming. The guy that did the morning weather, him and his wife, who did weekends at this time, they left. He went on to greener pastures elsewhere. So they slotted me in to the morning weather position Monday through Friday. At that time, the only weather training I had a Meteorology 101 course in college. And I settled into it very nicely. I mean, I took to it and I really enjoyed it. And it was something that I, at that point, didn't know a ton about, but wanted to learn a lot more about. Okay. So I went back to school to get my degree in meteorology. And as the saying goes, that's the way the story ended. Got back to school, got my degree, and continued in the meteorology route, and here I sit today.
You mentioned earlier that you could have gone to the teaching route and would have been a high school football coach. Okay, so obviously there's a sports bent to you there. And obviously, as you progress in your career, maybe at that moment it was meteorology, but was sports ever in the back of your mind, like maybe that would be an avenue for me as well? In the same medium?
I just took the opportunities that were presented to me.
Okay.
If they would have offered me sports, certainly I would have jumped at it. But because I was a natural fit. To me, sports is life. I mean, I'm a typical Western Pennsylvania kid who grew up in the 70s. I was all about the Steelers, the Pirates.
It's great, wasn't it?
Oh, it was wonderful.
I can't explain it to my kid. He doesn't. Bradshaw and Swan and Stargell and Parker, all those folks are just they're in books.
It's a fabric of who you are, though, as an adult right now. So, sports was always inbred in my DNA. So,
in the right city for it.
Yeah. So if somebody would offer me a sports job, oh, heck yeah. That's even better. That's who I am.
I think there's a big misconception about when a person just looks at the news and they see a weather person there. I think that the word meteorologist there's not a good delineation between a weather person and a meteorologist. I could go be a weather person right now with absolutely no formal training, correct?
Yes. Well, you could call it weather person or weather personality.
Okay.
Which would probably be the more correct term.
Okay.
Weather personality or weather person is just somebody that has a broadcasting background and they jump in front of the green screen and they deliver a forecast. So they don't actually develop a forecast. It's usually that information is given to them and they just present it. A meteorologist obviously has those presentation skills, but I actually meteorologists actually sit and we go from A to Z, where I actually sit and I look at computer model information. I look at temperature data. I break down. I look at upper air charts. I look at a lot of different things, different slices of the atmosphere. I have the education for that and what to look for, and I break it all down. And from that, then I come up with what I believe the weather will be. this temperature, precipitation, what time it's going to start, what time it's going to stop, why it's going to do what it's going to do. So the difference is a meteorologist is somebody who has been educated and trained to actually formulate a forecast, a weather prediction, whereas a media or a weather personality is somebody who just really presents the weather information is just given to them. They don't do any preparation in terms of in terms of creating the forecast. And
I think it's obvious too, the fluidity in which you did your job and are still doing it in a different format is because you created that forecast. It's you. So it comes off as so natural and fluid where it's a little annoying when I do a little bit of traveling, your local weather, you turn it on and you can tell someone's just reading a script, and there's not annoying, but you can just a big difference between someone who is presenting their creation for that day, as opposed to someone just reading off of a teleprompter.
And there's a credibility issue.
I think so.
I've always said, for as many, and I'm not bashing, but for as many attributes that social media has that are good, there are some that are maybe not so good.
No question.
It gives people who maybe aren't properly trained in meteorology also a form to put out information that may not be accurate just for clickbait. They're just looking at clicks or likes or whatever. So I've always said when it comes to social media or whoever you're getting your weather information from, know the source. If you see something on Twitter or Facebook and you don't know who put that out, I wouldn't trust it.
Right.
If you see something that I've put out, hopefully you trust it.
Right.
But you know the source. So always know your source so you know that the information is credible.
And that's a good lesson for all your internet activities. And that's the misinformation, and that's the part of the web is still a big challenge for all of us. It's just getting accurate information. And one of the things that's funny for me too is it's kind of comical in a way. And you don't have to answer this if it puts you in an uncomfortable position because you got so many friends. And I don't mean it as a purely negative thing. I find it rather a comical. So we're in a selfie society, and maybe not so much maybe in our age group or a little above our age group, but younger. And I see a lot of very capable younger people getting into TV news, TV sports, and their social media platforms are the amount of wake up every day, show you my outfit. My outfit changes every day, and I'm sure these are fine people. It's just almost to me it comes off a little. It's
self-serving.
A little unprofessional too, and now don't get me wrong, they have followings and that's fine. It was grown for them, but I think back to maybe the meteorologists or the sports anchors from our era when we were children, and if that medium was available to them, I don't know if some of those people would have done that stuff.
No, and and I'm certainly not going to sit here and tell somebody what they're doing or how they're handling their business is wrong. I go about it a different way. Because everyone has to be true to who they are. I'm an older soul. I'm 50 years old, but sometimes I think my soul was born in a different era. So you say that, and the thought crosses my head, would Joe DiNardo ever take a selfie? And the answer is absolutely not. Right. Would Bill Burns ever take a selfie? Ray Tannehill? Absolutely not. Kuzma? No. These people would not do that. But again, that was a different era.
Sure.
So, I don't want to... Nowadays, that is common practice.
I do it for my social media.
For me, it's not typically
common before we leave.
It's not common practice, and we all indulge in that on occasion. But some people do it more frequently than others. And I think that's what you're getting at. But again, that's what we've evolved into. And quite honestly, I've come to understand that society as a whole has become, and this is reality TV probably set this into motion. It's very voyeuristic. People love to see what everyone else is up to. Instagram is all pictures. People will go and they'll just, whoever they follow. And
how much of that stuff is real though?
I don't know. But people love to see what other people are doing, whether we're getting at the time of year, we're on Facebook, everyone's posting prom pictures, and it's
sure. I think that's good. I think that's all healthy.
People love to see that stuff.
It brings us together as a connectivity there.
Absolutely. So it's not all bad, but using it more judiciously or less judiciously, I should say, is probably the route that I go. I'm not a huge selfie a day guy.
We weren't. No, you were not. But There are reporters for every station in this town that do 5-6 a day, and it basically has to do with the outfit. Their hair is working good. They're sitting in the van. I guess it's marketing, and obviously the stations are maybe reluctantly or positively embracing this stuff because I guess they're worried about their ratings and their demographic they're appealing to. I get it. I guess it is what it is.
Whatever's going to get clicks and likes.
I guess it's just hard. I guess as a 53-year-old person sometimes to really wrap my head around it. It just seems and with my background, I did a lot of internet promotion starting in '99, and we were doing movies for the guitar business when there was no YouTube. So I get it. But the word superficial comes to mind a lot. It's almost like you have to dig so hard to find the good information sometimes because you got to get through a bunch of muck. And, I don't know, just me. It's just that.
I don't think you're alone. I think you have a lot of people there with you.
So I definitely want to ask you this question, too, because you're a personality in Pittsburgh. What do you really love about this town? And you could probably talk for an hour on that, but if you had to whittle it down a little bit, what do you really love about Pittsburgh?
See, the irony here is if you ask me what I don't like, I can come up with the answer very quickly.
Let's start there. What are your pet peeves about Pittsburgh?
No, I have the weather. Truthfully, that is the answer.
Of course.
And I don't think I have a lot of blowback on that. I think a lot of people would agree as well.
What's going on now?
And I lived and breathed and still do the weather every day.
Right,
so,
right.
I had it more than most. But the weather, I think as I've gotten older, has really starting to take a toll on me. And it's not so much the change in seasons. I never complain about temperature. I'll take a 90-degree day as equally as I'll take a 9-degree day. The caveat being, if the sun is out, I'm good.
We have a lot of gray skies here.
What gets me here and gets a lot of people is the abundance of cloudy, overcast skies and the length of time that we have to endure that. Usually November through March, if we get 3 sunny days, that's a good 4-month stretch because most days are not that way. So I think it's the thing that my biggest pet peeve is the lack of sunshine. And having lived somewhere that we had it a lot when I was in South Texas, I probably took it for granted. Now it's like, what I wouldn't give for 3 sunny days in a row, dry days too.
Can you, for the listening audience and the viewing audience, can you concisely give a reason why this happens? Why do we have so much gray sky here?
Well, it's scientifically,
right.
It has more to do with our geographic location. If you look up some of the cloudiest cities in the country, they're going to be congregated in 2 places. Pacific Northwest, Seattle down to Portland. And that's because of the maritime influence. The Pacific Ocean's right there and the prevailing wind comes in out of the west. And then you have mountains, in many cases to your east, so it squeezes out a lot of moisture clouds. The other one is the Bermuda Triangle of clouds between Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo.
The Bermuda Triangle of clouds.
Yes. And it also has to do with, not that we have the same size mountains as they do out in the Pacific Northwest, but we have enough of a bump in the Allegheny Mountains and the ridges to give a little extra lift. Our prevailing winds come in from the west and northwest. The Great Lakes have an influence there, pulling more moisture down. So it just lends itself to that. When we get in that west to northwest flow, which is predominantly where we are in winter, it just lends itself to gray sky after gray sky after gray sky. And if I looked at satellite at one time, I looked at a million times in, say, January. It's overcast and awful here. Columbus, Ohio, sunny as all get out.
Wow.
3 hours away. But they're just out of that sort of that northwest flow, so they don't get that influence coming down from Lake Erie, which then connects up with what's above there, Lake Superior, and all the way up. So it's really just our geographic location that is to our detriment.
So Cleveland is sharing our misery as well, right?
Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and everywhere in between. Erie,
Buffalo, Pittsburgh,
Meadville. I went to college there.
You can't escape it, huh?
No. So that's the scientific explanation, the quick and the dirty. Now, you asked me what I love about Pittsburgh. Everything except of the weather.
Okay. You copped out there.
No, I'll expand. But truthfully, I mean, everything else. As a sports fan, I don't think there are many better cities in America. As I said, I'm a sports guy through and through, so I've taken full advantage of what I've been able to witness in my lifetime with some of the wonderful teams and the athletes. And I tell I have 2 sons, 10 and 12, and I tell them every day you should appreciate. They're big hockey guys. We're big hockey in our house.
Okay.
They both play hockey, and we're big hockey.
Right.
And I said you should appreciate what you're witnessing every year on the ice, because there are not many towns and not many teams that get to witness players like Crosby and Malkin and Letang all together at once. And this is a guy that's coming from an era that I watched Lemieux and Paul Coffey and Ron Francis all play together. So I've been doubly blessed in that respect. So I try and impress upon my boys, you better enjoy what you're seeing. On top of that, we're a football town. We always have been, probably always will be.
We're drunk on football in this town.
So that's just embedded who we are. So I
you
love
missed the Pirates. I noticed that.
Well, I still love the Pirates. I still root for the Pirates, but my expectations for the Pirates have been lowered over the course of decades. And now that doesn't mean I hate on the Pirates,
right.
But I just don't have the same expectations.
That's so politically correct.
No, it's true though. It's true. I don't.
They infuriate the hell out of me.
I don't not like the Pirates. I still love the Pirates. I still root for the Pirates, but I don't expect a lot from the Pirates.
Okay.
So when we had, what was it?
12, 13?
No, when we had the blackouts. What was that? How many years ago was that? 2013?
Yeah,
12, 13, something like that?
Yeah.
That was wonderful. That came out of nowhere.
I sure did.
And that was awesome. I as a Pittsburgher, I don't know that there's ever been a better time that this city got something so unexpected and just embraced it wholeheartedly.
It was unexpected.
It was awesome.
It was awesome.
And they didn't, unfortunately, make the series that year, but just that week and a half period, it was like we were in Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final.
It might have saved the franchise.
Yeah.
I really say that because they were, it was a really long stretch there, and had that not happened, would we be here in 19 with them still in town? Who knows? But they needed that. The town needed that as well. And I think they're still benefiting in some, here we are 6 years later, they're still kind of benefiting from that hope that the fan base had.
And when you look back at some of the most memorable moments in Pittsburgh sports history, and we have so many, it's good to know that this generation will have the Cueto moment to look back on and say, do you remember that? When he dropped the ball, I mean you talk about it and people still get goosebumps.
Sure. McCutcheon had a couple of big homers too in those 2 eras. A couple very big homers. I mean, there's moments. There's absolutely moments.
Yes. So it's nice that the Pirates were able to contribte to some of that, some of those memories.
We need to, because that has to offset the Sid Bream thing.
Yes. Don't go there. And now to go. Pittsburgh. I mean. As a lifelong Pittsburgh guy, the people here are just great. I mean, they're salt of the earth. They're just wonderful people, and I've been reminded of that recently with my situation. What a great place to raise a family. I grew up here, and my kids, I think, are just blessed to be growing up here as well. Cost of living's great.
It's a safe city.
Schools are great. Overall, a safe city. It's a big, small town.
Right.
And, we have crossed paths here again. And, there's that saying 3 degrees of separation. In Pittsburgh, I don't know if there's 1 degree of separation because everyone knows somebody's brother's sister's friend. Do you remember me from so-and-so? I mean, it's awesome.
And you don't have that in bigger cities. You don't.
No.
I spent some time in L.A. many years ago, on and off. I mean, months at a time. And it's so different. And not for me. Like to visit, this wasn't for me.
And because of Pittsburgh's history and the steel industry here, and so many people immigrated here when they came over, this is, I think, one of the cities that has true roots in the United States. Because as you know, and I know, and wherever you travel in the United States, if you have a Pirate hat on or a Steeler hat on, chances are 30 minutes off the plane, you're going to come across somebody. You from Pittsburgh? Oh, my uncle lives there. Everyone knows somebody, has roots somehow, friends somebody in Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh is, I don't want to say universal, but it is, United States. I mean, it covers the footprint is big, well beyond southwestern Pennsylvania.
I had designer James Houken a couple of podcasts ago, and he was talking about the exact same thing. He was doing some work with, and at the peak of his career, he was on the red carpet. He's he on the red carpet, and he goes, "You wouldn't believe," because I'm not going to drop names, but you would not believe, it didn't happen once. It happened 20 times to me in that 3-hour period when they found out that I was based in Pittsburgh. Everybody had a story. Everybody had a story. Relatives, friends, maybe that's where they came from. How they got their start there. So it's he goes, it's amazing the footprint. People always seem to come back to. Like,
yes.
It's they move away. Something always just drives them back. It's certainly
tractor beam brings you back.
It's not the gray skies. No. They get past the gray skies somehow, and the potholes. I mean, the potholes got to be a pet peeve.
I never understood that. Because every time and I do a lot of driving for my kids for hockey and whatnot, but it seems like every time I cross over into Ohio, literally within 2 miles, I'm like, boy, this road is really smooth. What are they using here that we're not using in 5 miles down the road?
I say the same thing in West Virginia sometimes, and people laugh at me. I'm like, no, you drive, take 70, is it 79 that goes through?
Yeah.
And as soon as you cross over or you pull off, into one of the towns.
What are they using that we're not using? I mean, they get the same weather that we get, so it's not a freeze-thaw thing, or I don't know.
I practically lost my whole car in one yesterday in a parking lot of all places. I mean, and again, our snow isn't as brutal as Cleveland or Buffalo, correct? I mean, we don't typically get the same amount of precipitation as those two.
Totals for the season, no.
Okay.
Frequency, we probably outdo Cleveland in the frequency. And what I mean by that is the number of days that we have with even flurries in our skies. Because Cleveland is probably too far north to be impacted by southern systems that we get impacted by, same with Buffalo. But on the reverse, if Buffalo gets smacked with lake effect, sometimes we don't, or sometimes we do, depending on...
Right.
So we're kind of in that zone. We're getting southern systems and we get northern systems too. So it's not so much the amount of snow we get in terms of an entire season. This past season, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know we had like 36 inches of snow, which is below normal. And a lot of people probably think, wow, that's 36. That's it? Officially, yeah, that was it. Now that varies from location to location, but normal's like 39. So we were below normal. But if I look back at the numbers, the number of days that we had 0.2 of an inch of snow, half an inch of snow, is probably going to be a lot. We just get nickel and dime to death.
Oh yeah,
it's death by 1,000 pinpricks or whatever.
Yeah, anybody's tried to play baseball or youth baseball in the spring in Pittsburgh, it's so difficult. I mean, it's like everything's fine, and then the precipitation for 10 minutes and you're wiped out. Next day, same thing. So
it's not the amount so much as it is the frequency. It's just the constant needling.
Yeah.
Mother Nature's just grinding at us.
Yeah, I know, but we bear it pretty well. What's your thoughts on? You've been here. We both are natives of this place. We've been here a long time. The revitalization of the town just continues.
It's awesome.
It is awesome. Like Lawrenceville, I look at Lawrenceville now. Just what's going on down there. I can see that happening eventually in other areas of the city and moving out toward the suburbs now. And
I was talking to somebody what they're doing in the Strip District too. They're continuing to revitalize that. I mean, it's great to see the city neighborhoods getting that boost that they need. And the young people are in the city. There's a lot of young people. You go to Lawrenceville and it's mainly a 30 and under crowd. So it's good. Now the suburbs are probably more family. I'm a suburb guy.
Sure, me too.
So I don't spend, since I don't work in the city anymore, I probably don't spend a lot of time in the city anymore. And I don't eat out as often as I probably should in the city anymore.
It's not a bad thing, right?
No, I get more home cooked meals now.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's awesome that the city, and now there's more to do, and I'm sure they have bigger, better plans.
Sure.
This guy I was talking to that lives in the Strip District, I've always scratched my head and wondered why, or maybe the plans in the works, why we don't develop more of our riverfront property. Right down through the Strip District, there's all that wonderful property right along the riverfront. We could put parks, we could put running paths, we could
It's always been a question for me too, and even moving down in the suburbs, we're in Coraopolis right now, and Coraopolis has got a nice stretch of riverfront property, and it's just begging for something, someone to do something with it. So maybe at some point in time that'll be part of it, but that has always been a question for me as well too.
You need the money, obviously, and that's probably the short answer.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a shortage of that. So maybe we need to rake up the gas taxes more.
No, we don't need to do that.
I'm kidding.
So just to conclude this, give us an idea of whatever you're comfortable sharing, the general vision for where you want to take WhiteBoard Weather, or is it the exciting part about anything, this project for me or any business I've ever done? The excitement of it is not actually knowing exactly where you're going to end up. Yeah,
and I don't know where we're going to end up. We're going to take it literally, probably, one day at a time. I know it's cliche to say 1 week at a time, but the vision is to make sure that we have a stable base, which I think we do now, and then to continue to build on that, add layers as we go. So trying to figure out what the next layer is and how to make that successful is part of the challenge. We have some ideas as to things we want to do. We have an app that's going to be developed very soon. So
that's very cool.
We're going to expand in that direction. And we want to add more creative and original content to the site, PittsburghWeatherNow.com. We have stuff on there now, a lot of stuff. We have a nice photo gallery where people submit a lot of their photos.
Right.
That's WhiteBoard Weather can be seen there as well. After it's finished on Facebook, we do a weather fun fact of the day that I record those. We also have special features about lawn and landscaping tips every week. I do a specialized golf forecast for golfers. So there are a variety of features and different things that the website offers, but I think there's certainly much more that we can do. We've talked about a newsletter. We've talked about some blog type stuff, adding additional video features and specials. I'm trying to come up with creative content. I have somebody, you're a music guy, I have somebody working on a WhiteBoard Weather theme song for me.
Good. I think it's a great idea.
We're hopefully going to have a theme song.
That's very cool.
Real soon. So, just little things like that. You add a little bit here, a little bit there, and before you know it, you've taken your stable foundation and you've built, a skyscraper.
What's your thoughts on reaching out to schools, going and talking to schools? That's obviously it's part of the stations do that. That's with the community outreach.
Absolutely.
And that would be, to me, that'd be amazing for you.
Yeah, and I've had people that inquired over the course of the spring about coming out to schools. I wasn't ready to go there yet because everything was still kind of in flux.
Right.
But I think that's definitely something that is certainly on the radar, no pun intended, further down the line. So there's a lot of potential there, a lot of ideas. And I quite honestly, I open up. I have ideas of my own, but I also open it up to people that are regular watchers and viewers. I always ask people for their input. What do you want to see? Where do you think we need better? Because I want to deliver a product that people can get behind and they're interested in. So if there's something that I'm not doing that somebody thinks, well, maybe you should add this little wrinkle, I will certainly entertain that. So I'm open to all suggestions.
I think you're also creating your own little community. Have you felt that yet?
Yes.
I think and you'll start to see, I think my prediction is that you're going to start to see users and fans and your watchers and your listeners start to interact with themselves, and that could take a whole life of its own.
Absolutely.
Which should be amazing.
Absolutely.
But I think you're on the cusp of that happening.
Absolutely.
And,
I hope.
I
hope. Fingers crossed.
And you got a recommendation yesterday for white umbrellas, right? WhiteBoard Weather umbrellas.
We have merchandise coming.
Yeah, so let's talk about the merchandise. It's important.
Yes, we have merchandise coming soon. We're going to have an online store on the website.
Very cool.
Hopefully within the next week or two.
Awesome.
It's a process. But we're going to offer, apparel, T-shirts, tank tops, long sleeve tees, coffee mugs, and somebody yesterday asked about umbrellas, which obviously would be a common sense fit. Yes, absolutely.
In this town.
So,
or snow galoshes, maybe. Or,
yes,
something like that.
So I mean, again, it's always a work in progress here. I'm always open to suggestions. So merchandise is coming soon. We're going to try and work on putting together, I mentioned the best of the Burgh for Pittsburgh Magazine.
Right. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
That is so impressive.
I'm working on having like a little celebration party for people that have supported me. So Hopefully we're going to get that scheduled for sometime in June where it's just going to be open for people to come.
Amazing.
We'll have some food and games and stuff. So I'll have more information on that in the days and weeks ahead. So it's I'm just enjoying the ride, man. I'm enjoying the wave, and hopefully we can ride it for a long time.
And the uncertainty part of it, that little sliver of uncertainty, because you never want too much of that in your life, but it's kind of exciting to me because you really don't know where it's going to end up.
It keeps the pilot light lit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't want to get too complacent.
Right.
You always want to have that little fire burning underneath you saying, a little nudge, you need to try this. You need to try. And, I think 23 years at the same place will, for anybody, offers complacency.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be the first one to admit that I was comfortable and, probably on some level complacent. The job was the same for me every day. It was very routine. I would go in and do my thing. So to have this change in direction, I think for everyone is good to hit a reset button and reinvent yourself.
Right.
I think it's healthy if you want it to be healthy. Again, we talked before, you can go in a different direction. But I chose to go in a direction where I want to take a negative and make it into a positive.
Mm-hmm. And you've done that. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
You come back and see us again as this process continues, and we're going to keep an eye on there. And you just had Michael Misko on recently.
Yes.
And I think that
mystical Misko.
I think that guest, having guests once in a while on there too, it adds a great flavor to the show.
Yeah.
It turns into almost a variety show, even beyond.
Well, and that's one of the things that I want to continue to do is make contact. And all local people, of course.
Sure, sure.
I had Brett Keys on. He's a friend of mine. Our sons played hockey together. So adding different personalities, some well-known like Brett, and maybe some that should be well-known like Michael.
Absolutely.
Is a good thing. And as I said, coming up soon, I'm going to do a sort of a studio session with some local musicians.
Very cool. Very cool.
During WhiteBoard Weather, so they're going to play some music. We'll talk some weather. We'll have our WhiteBoard Weather jam going.
Exciting
hopefully.
Stuff.
It's kind of adding new wrinkles all the time, just to kind of keep it fresh.
And you can design it the way you want to do it. And that's the great part about it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks
I appreciate
for coming in, and we're going to see you again soon.
Sounds good.
All right,
I'm down.
That's it. We're out.